Okay, this is the third one. I'm just going to go with it. I'm used to it by now. Let's just move on, beloveds. Everything that's flowing is flowing. So, um patriarchy. This is the third video of Blonde I See You. Hashtag make it plain. This is about this video here. We're going to deal with patriarchy. Their own white women are treated like they're slaves of privilege. And so, Spirit wants me to, once again, if you listen to the other videos, beloveds, I speak on how the connection between all of this is the divine feminine. The connection being shown, being coming forth, is from the Netflix movie Netflix movie Blonde. Sorry. Um, the Red Table Talk interview with Jada and Breonna Taylor's mother, sister, and her man. Her They weren't married, so I'm not going to say her husband, but her man, her lover, her husband, in the sense that they were intimate, and he knew her, and he went up in her. Okay? That's where all of this is coming from. And there are a lot of messages, and you're just going to have to get the messages how they are, because all of this is just pouring forth, beloveds. And like I said, I didn't sit down to write it down so it would be so lovely for you. It is what it is. You're getting it raw, you're getting it whole, you're getting it unedited. So do with it what you will. Okay? Back to it. This video here, this third video, is going to deal with how patriarchy deals with its own women. The fact that the white patriarchy, the status, the stereotype is blonde, blue-eyed, fair of skin. Okay? That is what they find most valuable. That's what has been most attractive until recently. Okay? There's reasoning for that. There's reasoning that Marilyn Monroe went blonde, platinum blonde. There is reasoning in the frequencies and in the spiritual sign, symbol, and symbology of the color, especially when you're dealing with the divine feminine and you're understanding the bride and you're understanding the veil and you're understanding and understanding all the things that go along with that. When you understand what the Shekinah and the Shekinah glory is truly speaking of, when you understand what the Holy Spirit is all about, the Holy Spirit is the divine feminine aspect of God, of the Great Spirit, of the Absolute, of Source, of consciousness. She is the creative aspect. Through that creative aspect comes unconditional love. Unconditional love is the most beautiful. A being, an entity, was created who was to announce her, who was to usher her in, who was to make a beautiful sound to announce her coming, her presence. And he was made most beautiful. But he wanted to be her. And so, from the narrative of the story, regardless of your religion, regardless of the dogma, regardless of any and all of that. I want you to follow the funk and the funkiness. Follow the birth, death, and rebirth of through the creation of the universe that we know, this universe, through the creation of the planets, through the creation of the cycles and seasons, through the creations of the rotations of the earth, through the cycles and seasons, through the tides of the water, through the cycles and seasons of the moon, through the rotations of the sun. I want you to understand the divine feminine. And I want you to see her. And I want you to visualize her. Okay? And I want you to visualize her in the aspects of just the women that I've mentioned and spoken of. Okay? And I want you to understand that spirit does materialize in the flesh, amidst and amongst us. And often it is to teach us to expand our conscious awareness. Okay? And certain things. Marilyn Monroe committed suicide. Or so we believe. This version of Blonde, the life story of Marilyn, is told in a very, very specific way. If you look at it from the spiritual lens of what was done to the divine feminine from such a young age, what formed her, what infected her, what influenced her, what diminished her. If you, I'll go back. I know I'm going back and forth, beloveds, but the second video I spoke of funk. And I spoke of being a migrant child, poor, dirt poor, living in a barn, communal place, communal dwelling. And I spoke of the odors and so forth and so on. And I want you to understand that Mary, the mother of Christ, was sent to a barn. I want you to understand the first smells that the Jesus child came into were those of a barn, were those of animals, hay, manure, dirt, earthy. Wasn't in a palace, all scrubbed and clean and fragrant with scents and this and this and that. Begin to part the veil. Begin to go back to where you came from, beloveds. To the dirt poor. To the indigenous caretakers of the earth. Those who are not offended by her smells. Those who are not offended by getting dirty, muddy. Those who aren't worried about the latest trend or getting shot up with plastic in order not to age. Those who don't go around scenting themselves with chemicals in order to mask their own natural odors. Those that don't go around idolizing others' names and wearing them as brands in order to be popular, in order to be seen as precious, in order to be approved, in order to be known, in order to be seen, in order to be heard by others who value those things above all else. Understand, beloveds, why the patriarchy is coming after a woman's reproductive rights. Understand why this Republican Party represents a faction of the entire population of humankind. Understand that that Republican Party is made up of men as well as women. But they believe, and they are so comfortable in the feminine, divine feminine being reduced because they can't handle her raw and uncut and unrestrained. Understand that it's just not white men. Understand that it is a spiritual, conscious awareness. Okay? That is afraid of integration. That sees itself superior. That is upset because it has no womb and it cannot create life. And so, intrinsically, at its bottom line, it sees itself as less than in the creation of the Creator. And like a immature child, it wants to have tantrums and fits and destroy what it feels is against it, wants to demean it, wants to attack it. And so, beloveds, I want you to see and become consciously aware in your observation of existence in how many ways this envy of the divine feminine takes place, has taken place. Who supports it? Who benefits from it? Who suffers from it? Also understand that if you're expecting this how can I say this, Mama? Flat out, okay? Flat out. If the white men treat their own women like that, what make you think they gonna treat any other woman any different? And that's their mother, their daughter, their sister. If they treat her like Blonde, like Marilyn, like Norma Jean, they divine a system to replicate that kind of self-hate. She hated herself, y'all. Those that commit suicide hate themselves. Just think of incarnating pure into a world that abuses you so, simply because of the divine feminine beauty and the unconditional love that you're capable of. Understand the seriousness. Understand the fraternities. Understand the brotherhoods. Understand those systems that have been built to keep the foot on the neck of the divine feminine. Even in religion, she's called a ghost. They didn't kill her. She's the ghost. Understand, beloveds, that if this man's world does this to its own mother, what kind of mercy, what kind of peace, what kind of justice do you think it is capable of? Are you fooling yourselves? Or are you just agreeing and empowering what is because that's all you know? Because everything has been done to desensitize and to disconnect you from your instincts and your intuition, your spiritual instincts and your spiritual intuition. And you can see things happening to other beings. And the divine feminine in you, you shut it up. You put it in the basement because it wants to speak out. That's not right. Did you see what they did? That's not right. That's not. Shut up. You're going to get us in trouble. Shut up. We don't say nothing. Shut up. You stay in that basement. You stay buried up under that ground. You stay down there. You shut up. You just a woman. What do you know? Shut up. It's not right. Smack. It's not right. And we've been burned at the stake. We've been drowned. In the movie, Beloved, we've had our babies snatched from us. So much so that we'd rather kill them than for them to have to endure the hate of this funky world. We are still enslaved because the divine feminine spirit is not free. She is not represented. She is not recognized. She is not honored. She is not even observed in the manner that you see a flower and can appreciate its beauty. And yet, her symbolism is of a white dove and a red rose. And when we listen to the fairy tales, the mirrors on the wall, tell me who is the fairest of them all. It's not envy. It's not greed. When will we learn that? When will we observe what is right in front of our faces? When will we allow ourselves to love that part of ourselves that each of us has, that divine feminine? It's taken me 57 years. I seen her, I knew her as a child, but she was the most hated aspect of me. She was the part of me that I had to silence, that I had to hide, that I had to be ashamed of, that made me different. She was the part of me that came to me in the form of the goddesses. Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin rides the dragon don't ride Kuan Yin. Of Inanna. Baby, you gonna suffer. And you gonna suffer because you've done shit. And then you have to go down and apologize. And that's not going to be accepted. And they're going to demand your death. And you have to die and be reborn. A new being. But you have to do it willingly. And you have to divest yourself of everything you thought, of every feeling that you thought was righteous, of every bit of knowledge that made you you. You have to deconstruct all of that and let it decay and fall from your bones. And you have to leave it. And you have to rise above it and leave it in ashes down there on the ground as a sacrifice to the Great Mother. And you rise and you take flight, no longer just a being of the earth, but now of the air. Tied to it all, able to access the heavens, the higher frequencies, the winds of change that allow you to fly and rise above your limitations, above what was weighting you down, above what was anchoring you to the depths of misery and melancholy and suffering. You got to let it go. And I know for generations, blue butterfly jaguar woman, the generations. Life before we knew what life was as beings, as human beings. But aware of the divine feminine as an aspect of self. Even from that perception, even from that frequency or spectrum of being less than human, being animal, being insect, being fish, being atom, particle, molecule. Okay, let me move forward, beloveds. Again, I'm going to bring this to sum it up. Patriarchy, if they treat their own women like slaves of their privilege, how can you expect for them to change? They are now the minority in the world. Look at the world. Understand the ascension of the divine feminine spiritual conscious awareness rising and getting ready to sit back upon her throne, upon this earth, as an aspect of unconditional love and harmony and peace. Okay? But first, everything is about choice. And you have to choose heaven on earth. You have to choose to see which is the true beauty. And which is the true beauty that you are here to serve. And which of the true beauty you are here to represent, that you agree with. And that you want to expand, that you want to have intercourse with, that you want to navigate and explore her ways. Red Table Talk. I've forgotten the original mission statement of the Red Table and why it's round, and we talk a while around it, and why it's red. Not that I've forgotten it, but I've forgotten the exact words of how it goes. But the principle and the premise is the same. Regardless of how many red tables appear, I think we need more. I think we need more red tables like that. I think every police station needs a red table for its constituents to gather around, and there needs to be a liaison, someone who can parlay, someone who can speak to everyone who has a grievance. In the area that they serve and service. And they, like I said, they should be part of that community. So it should be familiar to them. This red table, it needs to be in more places. It needs to be, when you see this red table, there's no one superior. There's no one inferior. This red table is the blood truth. It is the raw truth. It is where truths are born and birthed and delivered. It is where you come and lay it all down and you talk about it. And you may not resolve it in one setting. And so you agree to come back again and again and again until you're at a better place. Some things will never be completely resolved in our lifetime. Doesn't mean that you don't come to that table for the next 7 generations. Breonna Taylor was her mother, again, and her other daughter, her younger daughter, were there at this table.